need today more openness and cooperation between nations and stronger accountability of those responsible for the global economy.
Hello and welcome to Davos Direct right here on ET. Now today's proceedings kicking off with two most influential policymakers, two people who will decide what the future of the European Council will be, two people who will determine whether Europe continues to be a threat to the rest of the world, and two people who will decide whether the threat will subside. Angela Merkel and David Cameron. Angela Merkel, the German Chancellor, refraining from criticizing David Cameron's decision to put a referendum if he wins elections in 2014 on whether Britain would want to stay a part of this council or not. David Cameron finally defending his decision before a global audience. We get you the policymakers on top of the show.
Governments need to continue efforts to bring borrowing under control, while there's political will and pressure to do so. We have indeed made considerable progress in the ongoing Eurozone difficulties in the last few months. Budget consolidation and economic growth are two sides of the same coin.
I believe in low taxes. That is why my government is cutting the top rate of income tax. We've cut corporation tax. I am a low-tax conservative, but I'm not a companies should pay no tax conservative.
Prosperity and growth have to be priority number one for Europe. I believe that we will succeed in making Europe more innovative, more suited to the challenges of globalization, if we tackle this fight together. And I am confident that if there is to be a referendum one day, the UK citizens will decide to stay in the European Union and contribute to shape its future. I think the European Union does not need unwilling Europeans.
I believe that if we continue to act, and if we can embrace those expectations, principles and value, and keep the momentum in the short term, we will get beyond the crisis.
From the top policy makers to the top decision makers as far as finance and economy is concerned, the day after IMF lowered its global growth forecast and did assert that systemic risks do exist in the system, the question that we put forward in an exclusive chat with Min Zhu, the Deputy Managing Director of IMF, is why is it that IMF has not been able to get confidence from what perhaps the world is beginning to see global shoots of recovery? Why is it that the IMF is still bearish on the global growth story? He indeed did say the systemic risks have gone down, but concerns do exist.
Well, we forecast a 3.5, and I would say, which is compared with 3.3%, which is a good number. The whole world is still on the recovery path, which is very good. But we have to see, this is a very serious crisis we had after 5 years. We are still not out of what's yet. And deleveraging process, it can take time. So we're overall in a situation short of aggregate demand, and also fiscal space is very limited. In that sense, we'll say 3.5% GDP growth is a mild recovery for the whole world, better than last year. We're looking for an even better year for the 2014.
You have, however, in your report said that the systemic risks in the system have gone down. There are fewer systemic risks. Why do you say that?
Well, 12 months ago when we were here in Davos, we were really concerned about the possible collapse of the euro. We're concerned about the U.S. fiscal cliff. We're concerned about China hard landing. And with the policy stance, we'll be able to avoid all those things. I think so. In that sense, the things are much better or stabilized. But we have to understand the issue is still there. The job is not done yet. So this year is very important for policymakers in see this opportunity and lay down the base work, do the structural reforms, build the base for the further strong growth for the next year.
The question that obviously comes to everybody's mind is, you said the risk last year was that the Eurozone may not have survived. It has indeed survived, and which is why the risk in the Eurozone is a lot less. Two questions there. The British Prime Minister has kept everybody guessing whether he will opt out of the Eurozone or not. If that were to happen, how does that change the contours of global economy, especially the Eurozone bloc, the single currency bloc?
Well, we're not yet to look at it as economic impact on this issue yet, but we'll say a strong Europe obviously is the best interest thing for the whole world and for Europe or for everyone. Yeah.
But you haven't answered my question. If Britain does opt out, what happens to the single currency Eurozone? Do you think it can then survive?
The euro really experienced a very difficult challenges in the past few years, and the euro survived. We hold the position we believe the euro will continue to survive because the euro members are strongly committed to stick together. And if you're looking for in the past 12 months, all the policy stance from LTRO to OMT, the liquidity issue gradually solved, from banking union, from fiscal union, all the fiscal impact, all those things. We try to working very hard to move forward as a one unit. We're very much looking forward to see that we'll move further.
Let's speak about central banks across the world. They have done everything to boost growth. They have done everything to, from cutting rates to near zero to printing money. And as a result, we've seen currency wars of sorts across the world. Do you kind of agree with me when I say that the world is entering a phase where one country or the other is on a currency war path?
Well, the central bank is also trying to lower the interest rates, and which is a very typical response to the crisis. When you have a crisis, you need to provide the liquidity, lower interest rates, which is very the normal central bank interventions they do in the past. And so the liquidity is ample in the current situations, ease the funding pressures. I think those are good, and also in some way support the growth and the job. Because at this moment,
what does it do to currencies, though?
Yeah, at this moment, let me do the first part.
Right. And
it's also important to make sure to promote the growth, because growth is so low. 200 million people still don't have a job. So we need to promote the growth. I think, given the very limited fiscal space and the monetary policy,
it indeed is a vote of confidence as far as emerging markets are concerned. Many economists from across the world continue to assert that it is the emerging markets, it is the developing markets that will really lead global recovery. I mean, many of these markets which have seen good growth despite the plagued slowdown in developed markets like the United States and Europe will actually lead the road to recovery. We get you the top economists with their vote of confidence on emerging markets.
Europe is still in a mess. And US is yet to get its fisc in shape. And so it doesn't really come as a surprise that much of the talk at the 43rd World Economic Forum in Davos is on how emerging markets will drive growth.
Generally speaking, the emerging markets have grown normally, so the trend shows they are still propping up the global growth.
Economic growth in most emerging markets has been over 5%, and it's this growth story that countries like China, India, Russia are selling in Davos.
We need to see investments growing by 10% annually for at least a few years in a row. Therefore, we are always interested in attracting large-scale foreign investment.
Foreign investment for sure hasn't eluded emerging markets. India alone has seen $16 billion of FII flows in just 6 months. The globe realizes that most emerging markets are at an inflection point right now.
There is a risk, of course, related with the problems with public finances, the deficit in the United States, and of course the recessions in Europe. Nevertheless, I think that it could be, probably we are passing through one of the inflection points in the economic situation, and probably next year.
But economists do warn that emerging markets cannot grow in isolation. For sustained economic growth, the global giants will have to join the party. Bureau Report, ET Now.
India is a market where the world wants to be in, but it is a very, very tough market. And who would know it better than the world's biggest retailer, Walmart? It has been in all the wrong headlines for all the wrong reasons. First, it was the FDI and multi-brand retail ruckus, and then, of course, the law being charged. The government has given in to the opposition's demand. There will be a commission that will probe whether Walmart greased palms when it sought an India entry. But Commerce Minister Anand Sharma, who's been meeting the tallest leaders of India, Inc. and global investors here in Davos, does believe that a company like Walmart should not be unfairly targeted.
To the best of my understanding, what had happened, that under the US law, there is a mandatory filing for any lobbying. And Indian companies, including public sector undertakings, have the sanction to hire lobbyists. They pay in foreign exchange, but they also have to do the filing. Now, if you go through that, it's a list of maybe 70, 80 activities for which the filing is done in a single filing.
Right.
And one of those 70, 80 is the multi-brand retail in India, where their lobbying is in US with them. And if there is any lobbying done in India, we are not aware. But if there is any violation of Indian law, that's a fundamental question.
Right.
Suppose if an Indian company, under their law, it is allowed.
Right.
And if a foreign investor or an Indian company hires a PR agency or a law firm, would that be in contravention of the Indian law or rules? To the best of my understanding, no. And lobbying must not be confused with bribing.
The cabinet has cleared the proposal to set up a commission to probe into, charges or allegations of bribery or allegations of lobbying as far as Walmart is concerned. Is Walmart raising concerns with you?
We are very open as a government. We have taken a policy decision. And when we take a policy decision, it is not company specific, whether the single brand or the multi-brand. The policy is a country's policy. Now, those who qualify under that policy, irrespective of what your name is, which country you are from, then you can come in and do business in India. That's how I look at it.
You've done plenty of reforms. You've really stood by your decisions. There's been tough economic decision making that has happened. Do you think a probe into Walmart at this stage, despite this being an executive decision, despite this decision being legitimized by a vote in the House, do you think a probe at this stage will perhaps vitiate sentiment a little?
Well, I think those who raised it should reflect upon it. That they exaggerated, they sensationalized. We have got the Senate filing reports of the period when the NDA government was in office. And there were policy decisions which were made. But there was mandatory filing by the US companies directly connected with those very sectors which were opened up. But we never cast a shadow of doubt or flung accusations in an irresponsible manner. But since these were raised in Parliament, government has given an assurance, we are honouring our assurance.
Good economics is not always prudent politics, and which is why there's been plenty of speculation whether the allies have been on board as far as the tough economic reforms and the government's own agenda is concerned. In an exclusive chat with ET Now, however, Praful Patel did dispel some of those misnomers and said economic recovery is as crucial as political prudence really is. He also spoke to us about his interest into the beautiful game of soccer and how he's lobbying very hard to get the Under-17 FIFA World Cup into India.
Well, I think the main focus which we should be emphasizing is on infrastructure. We got to get the power sector right. We have to make sure that, that really gets back on track, because that has really cost us a lot of, I would say, goodwill in terms, and even from within, I think for our own economy. We couldn't have done more, wrong if you look at it that way. We have got to get the coal sector right. We got to get the power sector right. Even our other infrastructure like roads and other programs.
From being one of UPA's most trusted allies, you may not be the biggest, but you are the most trusted. How tough has it been for allies like yourselves to stand by some really tough decisions?
What India is going to achieve in the long run is due to good, sound economic policies. I think, at least as the NCP is concerned, we have always been very, very rational and very supportive of economic reform.
India Inc., at least the auto part of India Inc., Motown is very, very nervous. They believe taxes could be raised on diesel cars. That's an obvious conclusion people are drawing. I think demand will take a little bit of a hit because of diesel deregulation. How are you soothing frayed nerves?
We have almost a quarter of our manufacturing GDP coming only from the auto sector. So it must not slow down, and we have so much of latent demand. But the other flip side is on, yes, especially diesel, the manufacturers are a little concerned that there shouldn't be an extra levy on the diesel cars. Well, there was a valid case until a few months ago to raise these taxes because, diesel was underpriced compared to petrol. But now that we've already, decided that, yes, we've raised the price of diesel substantially initially, and then we've said every month we'll go forward with an increase. So I think it slightly negates the case for levy on diesel cars. I think from the auto sector's perspective, I think we need to be a little bit more careful. We should fine-tune because we need the growth also. That's where the jobs are going to come.
Will you be telling that to Mr. Chidambaram?
Well, that's our wish list.
There's been a debate of sorts in public forums that taxes should go up for the super rich in India. Many people in policy making have voiced that. This will be a revenue raker. Do you think that's a valid argument?
I think a fine balance should be struck. And I don't know, I wish not because of any personal reasons, but I feel that as an economy, India has done well with lower taxes on every front.
From policy making to football, you head the FIFA organization in India. I know you did meet the guys here in Zurich. Is India going to have an under-17 FIFA World Cup?
Well, I think it should be a reality. We've bid for it and we are already shortlisted. They were very enthusiastic. They said that a sixth of the world cannot be devoid of football. Well, I don't want to mention any favorites, but I certainly have a great fascination for Barcelona.
From a shoe that was specifically brought from Germany for this World Economic Forum, to getting your wife along, to perhaps the brandy that is being had. Some of the top CEOs of India Inc. answered the very candid question that we put forward. How does one keep themselves warm in Davos? What is India Inc. doing to keep themselves warm and cozy in this very, very frosty weather?
This is not that cold this time around. I have a good jacket and I have a high-tech shoe which will prevent me from falling down.
Give me more details of the high-tech shoe that you have.
So I found a shoe which has spikes in the sole.
6 layers of clothing.
All of them are Armani?
No, none of them are Armani. All homemade by my mother.
And you think you should buy that?
They're for free also, can you imagine? Everything good in life is free.
6 layers of clothing. Minus that, what would happen to you? You'd vanish.
I wish that were true.
But does that keep you warm? Any special shoes that you wear for Davos?
Well, you have to be so careful about the shoes because there's so much ice, you're slipping all over the place.
How do you keep yourself warm in this very, very frosty Davos weather?
Find a Swiss girl and get some hot chocolate and go to the Alps and enjoy the hot chocolate and the Swiss girl.
I think those are the necessities, but friends like Sunil and Praful keep me warm.
I think there's so many warm people here. I think it's a fun place. It's a fun place to enjoy, to get work done, and meet with people, and I think that's what keeps you warm.
Any special jackets that you bring along to Davos? You're a Davos veteran.
The very warm ones, yes.
Candid, isn't it? Looks like India Inc. is in cheerful mood here, amidst, of course, the very important business meetings that they're doing. But with that, we wrap it up here on Davos Direct for this edition. Till we see you tomorrow night. Thanks very much for being with us.